Hey world, it's me again, your queen, Dr. Brenda Bowers, your colleague, your coach, hopefully, most of all, your friend. And if you watched this morning's video, then you know that today we are talking about the number 16. And we made our lunch today. We are still in August. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, that's the 8th month. We're in 2024. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 8. So it's considered the year of 8, and we're in the month of 8s. And when we look at our date today being 16, then 16 is 8 times 2. So it's almost as if we get 2 extra 8s in today. You get 8, and then your 8, 8, that makes 16, and then your 8 that makes the year. And 4 8s is 32, and 32 is a 5. So it's all about grace today. It's all about beginning new so that you can have new beginnings, because today is always yesterday's tomorrow. So when I told you yesterday that I'd see you today, this is that tomorrow. This is why you cannot put off anything for the future, because you're living the future every second of your life. We are given 86,400 seconds, no matter what our race, ethnicity, religious belief, gender, economic status, health, all of that. If we remain alive for 24 hours, it's 86,400 seconds, and we get to choose how we spend them. Today, hopefully, you spent some of the time building this sandwich that we've been building every day, where the first piece of bread, that first 8, represents beginning new. And I asked you this morning to spread that first piece of bread with self-love. Self-love. That last piece of bread is new beginnings, to launch us into the next day. I asked you to spread that piece of bread with God's love. Now, I don't care if it's focaccia, or if it's an English muffin, or if it's a bagel, or a wrap, or whole wheat, white, rye, whatever bread you choose. One is one, and one end is one is another. Doesn't matter. We're making a sandwich. That's all. And the sandwich for today in your lunch, and hopefully you've done this already, but if you're a late shifter and it can always be dinner, you have a sandwich. We have 2 pieces of bread. First piece of bread, we're spreading on self-love. Last piece of bread, we're spreading on God's love. Because I said this is a 1 plus a 6 day, that gives us 7. 7 is completion. So when we look at completion, if we spread 1 piece with self-love, 1 piece with God's love, that would leave 5 more elements to get us back to grace. What I asked you to do is to think about 5 people. And you don't have to call them, you don't have to contact them, they don't have to know. But think about 5 people: friend, foe, comrade, ally, frenemy, whoever. 5 people that you need to get to a grace space within yourself. Just, you need to get them to that space inside of you that is representative of undeserved favor. You know, you just do it because you love them. So we're going to take these 5 people and not only give them grace space, then we're going to elevate them to a space of love. And that is your sandwich. And you're going to bite it, and you're going to chew it at least 33 times every bite. And we're doing that to represent the years of the life of Christ incarnate. And also, because mastication is chewing. This is a correct word that I'm saying. Digestion starts in the mouth. It starts with how we chew. So this is as we build our spiritual digestion, our mental, emotional muscle around this sandwich building. I am so excited about the digestive process as well. You're going to eliminate some of the bloating that's been in your spiritual life. You're going to eliminate some constipation, some diarrhea, some of the issues that give you heartburn. You're going to get rid of those naturally and spiritually this month. And what I'm asking you to do throughout the month is to share in the comments. Even though I haven't been doing these live yet, the comments stay on I want to build a cookbook of how you make a lunch, one sandwich at a time, looking at 8-8. So 08 month, 1 through 31 in the middle, and 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 on the end. Is going to be a really cool recipe book because it's going to work beyond August. The principles are going to work. The principles I'm giving you, believe me, they're going to work beyond August. Not only are the principles going to work and we're going to have this great book of sandwich recipes, it's also almost like a time capsule because we will be preparing for 9 years from now in 2033 when this same type of phenomena is happening. It was pretty foggy out today. Those that have been looking at the Lionsgate portal, in my first video, I did give you a couple of shots of what it looked like. Foggy, rainy, but got some sun to come through. So if you haven't checked it out, please make sure that you do. So let me tell you some fun things about the number 16. While maybe some of you are eating your lunch. 5 people, get them to grace, then get them to love. 1 Corinthians 13 actually has 16 attributes of love in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Called the love chapter, but there are actually 16 characteristics, attributes, assets is the word I was going to use before, which still can work regarding love. So I'll make sure you go back and look at that. So just talking about some fun facts regarding 16, and all of my posts are educational and entertainment. Anything that I say is my opinion, doesn't have to be yours, and it's okay. And right now, nobody's paying me to say this, but you all can change that anytime you want to. Just make sure to not only like, share, subscribe, you can also contribute, and I would appreciate it. In both Spanish and Portuguese, both European and Brazilian languages, 16 is the first compound number. A compound number is a number made up of 2 different sets of numbers. In this case, being diacises, desacises, and dezeces. All meaning 10 plus 6 respectfully. I am so sorry because I botched those words up, but again, they're European and Brazilian. Once you reach the age of 16, you can get your beginner's or your learner's driver's license in many places around the world, including the United States, in most states, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Iceland, South Africa, Norway, and the Isle of Man. It's a tradition in many places in the United States to celebrate a girl turning 16 by holding a Sweet 16 party. Did any of you have a Sweet 16 party? That's very, very common. The celebration is held to symbolize that a girl is coming of age, that transition from girlhood to womanhood. And we know that it's happening earlier than 16, it seems, doesn't it? Some of us as parents and as grands and even as great grands. In many states, you can, you're legally allowed to drop out of school and not go back at the age of 16 in many states. But with that being said, there are a number of different rules in place that add restrictions to that umbrella. So if you're thinking about dropping out, don't. And if you need help, you need tutoring, you need mentoring, you need support, then make sure that you're reaching out to your support system because you need to graduate so that you can go beyond graduation. And you're talking to somebody that has paid for more degrees than we got time, more than 16, I can tell you that. But the world is a better place because we're lifelong learners. Unlike many other places in the world, you're legally allowed to drink at the age of 16 in some countries, which include Portugal, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, and Belgium. If you were thinking about taking your 16-year-olds to any of those places, just make sure that you are mindful of that. The majority of caterpillars have 16 legs, actually. We call them centipedes and millipedes. Those have 100 and 1,000 legs consecutively. But a caterpillar has an average of 16 legs. Front 3 pair typically being real legs and the other 5 pair being stumpy legs that only stick out of their abdomen. But when caterpillars turn into butterflies or moths, they have only 6 legs. It's quite interesting. Old maps used to include a compass rose to indicate the orientation of the map. It is quite common for these compass roses to include 16 different points, which read as north, north-northeast, northeast, northeast-east, and so on. In the Women's League of Australian Rules Football, AFL, each team is allowed to have 16 players on the field. This is opposed to the Men's League. Men's League allows 18 players per team on the field at any given time. So an interesting differentiation. The atomic number of sulfur on the periodic table of elements is 16. I've been telling you that that's kind of a fun one for you all who are in science, earth sciences, or chemistry, and you got to deal with that periodic table. It's okay. There are ways that you can help remember when you get into a test with these. One being sulfur is 16. Sulfur is 16 and it belongs to a group 16 on the periodic table called chalcogens, which also refers to oxygen family. So the oxygen family 16, you have the number 16 element, and that number is sulfur. There is an unincorporated community in remote Kentucky that is called 16. That's the name of this unincorporated community. It's in an area that in many cases is similar to a town, but it doesn't have any government representation, therefore considered unincorporated, and is called 16. Not even sure if you'll see it on the map, maybe. Within the Myers-Briggs classification system, which is an assessment, I'm certified to do these in older assessment of considered personality traits, much more so than our now more advanced assessments around our emotional intelligence, as well as our judgment intelligence, which I also am certified in multiple of those areas. But within Myers-Briggs classification system, there are 16 different personality types. This classification system is a test that you do yourself to see what your personality type is in regards to how you make decisions, how you view the world, and as well as a range of other factors. Myers-Briggs is something, if you have taken it, you know if you are a thinker, if you're an introvert, an extrovert. So that's part of the Myers-Briggs. 12, the general idea in life is that you should get at least 8 hours of sleep per day, which gives you 16 hours of waking life. If you are anything like the normal human being, wouldn't it be great if you were able to get at least 8 hours of sleep and be functional and strong for an additional 16? You all know I tell you all the time, I'm really about a 4:30 in the morning to about 2:30 in the afternoon, and then I start getting a little less energy and have to make sure that I've been hydrated, that I got my nutrition in, that I've exercised, that I've meditated and prayed. It is very important for me to ensure that I can keep a balance of energy and be able to really fairly assess with accuracy where I'm at. Not just showing up for someone. You got to show up for yourself first. So keep yourself in first place as it relates to that. Get sleep. Sleep is a hard commodity for some of us. Hard for me to get at this day and age. And I've been very used to working 16 hours, going from a single mom to a married mom to a ministry mom to all kind of stuff to just being a woman and a person. I understand the 16-hour shift, and then you would have to be sent home because you'd have to have at least 8 hours off. Otherwise, you would be documented as working 24 hours straight, which in a union certainly is not acceptable, and in the normal rules for employment. There are 16 different King Louis. Did you know that? In history of the French monarchy, King Louis VI wasn't just the last King Louis. He was also the last king of France before the fall of the monarchy in 1792. So King Louis was the 16th king. I said 6, but he is the 16th. But he wasn't just the last king. He was also the last king of France before the fall of the monarchy, which happened in 1792. In the age-old game of chess, each player has 16 pieces. There are also 16 pawns in the game. I got any chess players out there? We'll do a challenge, with that. That would be something that would probably get a lot of views, would be a YouTube chess challenge. Chess is a great game, excellent to develop strategic thinking and to help you critically think. And of course, in the kingdom, it's kind of good to understand rulership, and chess helps you do that. There's a character in the hit Japanese manga and anime series Dragon Ball Z, also Android 16, a cyborg who was deemed to be a failure for being too peaceful by his creator and is deactivated. He's later reactivated and attempts to prevent another android from destroying the Earth, Android 16. And the 16th of 16, in many countries, you can drink at the age of 16, but in the UK, you're also allowed to drink at the age of 16, but only if it is beer, cider, or wine, and only when you're in the restaurant. So for many people around the world, these fun facts say that the number 16 is very important, not just because it's a 1 and a 6, but because it comes with power. So those of you who look at numbers as I do, and I look to the creator of numerology, you have heard me say that. I am unapologetically a Christian numerologist, Scientologist, not as a denomination. I'm just talking about science. I'm not talking about religion. So just some clarities on that. And a teacher of leaders, and I love to be taught. God is a good God. Yes, he is. And hopefully those were some fun things about 16. And just before I go, let me tell you a couple things on the biblical front. 16 appears 23 times in the King James Version, and 22 of those are in the Old Testament, and only 1 is in the New. The Old Testament writings that use the word 16 the most is the book of 2nd Chronicles. There it's 6 times, and in 2nd Kings it's 5 times. The book of Acts in the New Testament contains 1 use of the word 16. The meaning of the number 16 in the Bible represents love and loving. Christians are to become perfected in God's love, not just by physically obeying the 10 Commandments, which we are found doing anyway, but also by following the full spiritual intent of our Creator's laws and judgment. This duality of true love is represented. So as we look at 16, this 1 that's indivisible, this 6 that represents the number of humankind from day 6 of creation, putting those together makes a perfect 7. And we know that it is not only a key attribute of God, love, but God is love. So we are looking at love perfected, and we see that duality of love, especially in an 8 plus 8, which is 16, and today is that. In the Old Testament, 16 of the various names and titles for God signify his constant, never-ending love for the children of Israel. Jacob, at the age of 130 in 1670 BC, moves his entire family to Egypt to escape a famine in Canaan. Other than himself, of the 66 people that migrated to Egypt, 16 of them were related to Zilpah, the slave girl given to Leah, his first wife, in Genesis 46 and 18, and she produced Gad, Asher, 2 of Jacob's 12 sons. Appearances of the number 16 in other places in the Bible. The tribe of Judah by Lot was initially given a large section of the Promised Land as the inheritance from God. Part of what they had the right to possess were the 16 cities in what would become the lowlands of that territory. Issachar, who is the 4th of the tribes to receive by lot. So by lot is like casting a lot of lots. In our current day would be dice. their inheritance of territory in the promised land. What they received was on the western side of the Jordan River, just south of the Sea of Galilee. But this area also included 16 cities. We see Jehoash, he reigned for 16 years. King Ahaz reigned over Judah as a sole ruler for 16 years. Azariah, also known as Uzziah, is made king of Judah at the young age of 16. A good king, he rules for the second longest period, 52 years, 792 to 740 BC, of any ruler of either Israel or Judah. Yeah, I know the north and southern kingdoms get into that discussion. This is just a 16 highlight clip. There were 16 judges or groups of judges that governed Israel from the time of the Israelites taking possession of the promised land to the time of Saul, them saying, we need a king, which they didn't. They needed God, but they asked for Saul, so they got him. And Saul was anointed their first human king. This happened after the 16 judges. They were Joshua, Othniel, Ehud, Deborah, and Barak, Eli, Gideon, Abimelech in the north only, Tola, north only, Jephthah, east only, Samson in the south and west only, Samuel and Ibzan, east only, Jair, north only, Elon, east only, and Abidan, east only. Samuel's sons comprised of 16 and final judgment over the 16th and final judgment over Israel. Let me repeat that. Samuel's sons comprised the 16th and final judgment over Israel. Designated judges by Samuel when he could no longer perform his duties, they soon became so corrupt in their responsibilities that the Israelites requested a human king be placed over them. My goodness. Number 16, and love. The Apostle Paul, in the first book of Corinthians, which I said earlier, states that there are 16 distinct qualities of love that God has and that he wants us to have. Love is patient, kind. It doesn't brag about itself. It doesn't envy others. It doesn't act vainly. It doesn't behave in an unacceptable manner. It's not selfish. It's not easily provoked. It doesn't think evil of others. It mourns sin, but it rejoices in what is truth. Godly love is willing to bear and endure all things and to hope for and believe the best. The greatest of all spiritual gifts will never, ever fail. And we see all three abide: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. The 16th time the word love is used in 1 John, it says, there is no fear in love. 1 John 4 and 18. The 16th time that the word love is used in 1 John. Which means you need to read it, because that's a lot of loves when we're only at the 4th chapter. There is no fear in love. And there's no fear in making a sandwich. There's no fear in having self-love, which you got to have first, coupled with God's love, because it's unconditional and that's helping you. And then you got those 5 people that you put in your grace space, and then you're pushing them up to your love space, because you don't have to be afraid to love. Now, relationship reconciliation is different. You can forgive someone and they can reject your forgiveness, and not only reject your forgiveness, but also refuse to be reconciled. And we have to get unstuck so that we can move forward in those situations and not be fearful. So the 16th time the word love is used in 1 John is in 1 John 4 and 18, which simply says there is no fear in love. Some of the longest words in the King James Bible translations are 16 words long. They include covenant breakers in Romans 1 and 31, evil favoredness, Deuteronomy 17 and 1, loving kindness, Psalms 25 and 6, and unprofitableness, Hebrews 7 and 18. There are 133 words and phrases found exactly 16 times in the original languages of the Bible, and the words sickness and branch, as well as the phrase the Father, appear 16 times in Scripture. So many things about 16. There's many more just interesting things as it relates to the Bible and the number 16. And I think you should just go and check it out, because there are a lot more things that I am going to be mindful to not tell you because I'm staying under 30 minutes. But we are in 8:16:8. Are you eating yet? Are you chewing good? Do you have those 5 people in your mind? Did you do it already this morning? I hope so, because there's a whole lot of movement going on. Remember, 8 is a flow number. There's a lot of movement in 8. So we're dealing already with this moving 8 on the roller coaster. Hold on, hold on. That's how come I'm giving you a back end piece of bread too. And then in the middle, we get to have these magnificent manna meals. They are just so good because the meat that we're using is miraculous. It comes from on high. Tomorrow is the 17th. Remember, when I see you tomorrow, it's going to be today, because today is always yesterday's tomorrow. Therefore, when is your faith? Only now. Because once it's swallowed up in hope, what do you got faith for? I love teasing you all with your very intellectual brains and your spiritual anointing. I'm so grateful to be part of this kingdom with you as we all do what is ours to do. So as we are moving forward, remember, when I say until soon, it's because it's never a long time away. So among my tags, until soon is one of them. Agape and Shalom, or love and peace, meaning the same thing regardless of the month and day. And I've been doing that for over a decade. And then also studying the seconds. Brenda, how do you make decisions by the second? I can tell you exactly when I took that as part of my assignment, because it was in 2010 at one of the times that I was removed from life support, and family told I wasn't going to make it. But I was having a conversation with Jesus. I didn't know what they were doing. But there are some testimonies that I have heard since then. 16, 16, 16. One indivisible. 6 people. So we can't just love stuff. We gotta love people. And when we put the 1 and the 6 together, that's a 7. And when we look at 16 and divide it in 2, it's 2 8s. So if we want to look at 8, 8, 8, 8, we can do that as well, because 4 8s is 32. And 3 and 2 are a 5. And that's how we still get back to grace. Oh, isn't it a beautiful thing? This is your queen, your colleague, your coach, your friend. And I appreciate you. Dr. Brenda Bowers. Until soon, Agape 16. Shalom.